Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about social game design or how other people designed my game. Um, just a quick introduction, I'm Karel CROMBECQ from Selene Studios, like she said, and I'm the designer slash programmer at our company. We're just a small two-man indie company from Belgium, so it's me and another guy who's the artist, and we've been working on My and Death Robots for about a year now. We started in January 2014. And I have a confession to make. I'm a phony. Like this badge here says lead designer, which is kind of stupid because I'm the only designer at the game, so I'm by default the lead designer. But also, I didn't really design my game on my own. A lot of other people designed my game, and some of the most pivotal decisions that defined our game as it is now were made by other people who are no game designers, who had nothing to do with the game industry, whom I just met randomly on the street, or whom I know, friends who do totally different things. So today I'm going to talk about how it's important to get your game out there in the world and listen to everyone. Because like a lot of, especially indies, they design games in their basement, right? They're in their room and they design it on their own and they work on it for 4 years and then they go out in the world and they show the best game ever made to the public and it's not the best game ever made. Well, sometimes it is if you're Edmund Macmillan and you're making Super Meat Boy or something. But well, it's really a big gamble. And what I want to show is that if you listen to other people, to strangers, and you really listen and you accept their feedback and their critique, your game will be better for it. So let me give you a history of our game. At first, this was what our game looked like. This is My and Death Robots, the first version. Back then, the game was called Clockwork Rumble, and it had a totally different theme. But it's still the same game. I mean, if you play the game at the Indie Press Showcase, you recognize the placing of blocks, and even the level is pretty much the same as it is today. But it looks completely different. It has a different theme. Basically, when we started this, we were doing a lot of prototyping, and this is the most promising prototype that came out of it. And we just kind of slapped a theme on it. We didn't really think a lot about it because we wanted to do a short, quick game, maybe 2-3 months of development, push it out there. We were doing a mobile game back then. It was a mobile game at that point. So the theme was kind of arbitrary. We picked, the idea was you have a clock, it's a turn-based game, so why not make like clockwork wind-up robots that have to wind themselves up every turn and have them fight in like a huge clockwork machine. So in the background you see all the cogs, they are turning in the game. And back then we were convinced that this was really like the next big thing. We worked on it for 3 months, like day and night, and we were very, very excited about it. So we went to GDC in March, and we showed the game. I bought a tablet, and I showed it to people, like, hey, look at this awesome game. And this is the feedback we got. Well, this looks pretty red. I can't, like, see the difference between the background and the foreground. The game feels slow, like, there's not much going on here. Why are the robots so tiny? I don't like the red art. It's a cool concept, but it's too slow. I don't understand the theme. Why is it so slow? Wee, robots! So this is what this felt like. It hurt pretty bad. At that point, I was a little bit desperate, and I went back to home, and I discussed with the other guy I work with, and we compiled the feedback into 3 separate points. For starters, the theme was unappealing. Like, I still think it's like an interesting theme, the idea of like wind-up toys in like a huge machine. Something can be done with it, but not by us. At that point, we worked on it for 3 months, and we were kind of stuck in terms of where we were going. We didn't, like the theme was too abstract. And we couldn't figure out a graphical style to make it work. We couldn't figure out gameplay ways to expand upon. So it was really quite tricky. Second feedback point was the gameplay was slow, but even back then the gameplay was quite similar to what it is today, and we were very confident about the gameplay part. I mean, the game was already very fun, it just wasn't shining through. So we were sure we could fix this. I mean, we were quite confident in terms of gameplay. And then robots, everyone loves robots. So that's like the only positive feedback we got, everything else was negative. But then there was one like minor point that got buried in all the feedback, which was only like revealed when I was talking to other people about the game, some random dude said like, "Why are the robots small?" And it's not, he didn't mean you're on a tablet and the robot is small on the screen. He meant, why are you doing like a tiny nano robot in a huge machine? Why not make like Godzilla-style mega robots who smash people and stuff like that? Why are they small? And it didn't really register back then. When I was doing when I was in GDC, I kind of forgot about this. It took my girlfriend, which is called Ilse, to really get to me. At that point, we were quite desperate. After GDC, we tried to recover from the game, like try something different. We tried different teams, and nothing really worked. And I was ready to abandon the project, so I had kind of a crisis moment late at night. And I was talking to my girlfriend about like abandoning the project, trying a different game, trying something entirely different. And then like we got on kind of a brainstorming session, where so she's not a gamer at all. She doesn't play any games, so she's the furthest away from like a typical gamer you can imagine. And we got off on like a brainstorming session. I was telling her about all the feedback I got at GDC, and then she said something like, "Wait, but like huge robots, that's fun, right? You could like have small people walking around, they're like doing their dishes and stuff, and like having them go about their normal lives, and they're like these huge robots stomp in, and they start smashing everything to pieces." And I was like, "Well, yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Why didn't I think of this?" So we started brainstorming about this, and the first thing I said was like, okay, let's not do Godzilla, right? Let's not put it in a city where you smash buildings and all that kind of stuff. That's been done before. Let's put it someplace else. Also, our game is kind of a side view game, so we needed something mountainous, because otherwise, like, it doesn't make sense that there's buildings on top. So what about an island, like a Caribbean island, volcanic island? So that sounded pretty good, and it just took 1 week to convert this game, called Clockwork Rumble, to this game called Caribbean Death Robots. This was literally like, we threw everything away, we replaced the graphics by some placeholder art, we made some of our own art, and we put on little guys. I'm not sure if you can see them on the monitor. Yeah, you can see them. And they walk around. And immediately the game was more appealing. Like, we changed nothing about the gameplay, but it was already more appealing. But it took another guy to give us like the final step towards where we are now. And this guy is called Joris Hermy. He's a Belgian composer. He's a really good Belgian composer. He did the music for our game. So back then we were talking to him about doing the music for our game, and he had a little trouble, just as we did, with the abstract theme. And he couldn't figure out a good soundtrack. Well, should it be electronic or like orchestral? He couldn't figure it out. So I had a Skype meeting with him a few weeks after GDC, and I started talking about our new team. We were like, okay, we have good news. We dropped the Clockwork team. You don't have to worry about that anymore. We're now doing a Caribbean island team. Let's go with that. And he was immediately quite enthusiastic, because I mean, everyone in the audience has kind of a intuitive feeling about how like Caribbean music should sound, right? It's got all these specific instruments, so it's pretty easy to imagine a soundtrack with like this game as opposed to this game. So we were talking about this, and he was like, "Okay, that's cool. So you have a Caribbean theme. I can do lots of stuff with that. But you know what's even more interesting? If we would pick like a specific South American tribe as opposed to a generic like Caribbean tribe, people with no specific identities. So what about Incas or Mayas? You know, and then like I got a lightning bolt to my head. I was like, holy shit, this is quite brilliant, because you know what's special about Mayas? If you look at their architecture, it's style-based. Literally, like, if you look at every single Mayan building, it fits perfectly on a tile-based landscape. Like, literally every building fits on a tile-based landscape. And our game happens to be tile-based. So we're like, oh, holy shit, this is like a perfect match. We can like just make everything tile-based, keep our tile-based style, and still have like really elaborate buildings with all these staircases and all this kind of stuff. So in 1 week, we converted Caribbean death robots to Mayan death robots. And this is what the game looked like back then. It's still, if you go play the game on the Enterprise Showcase, it's still the same level. It's even got the same buildings at the same locations. So this is what was kind of the last step towards going from Clockwork Rumble to Mind Death Robots. And really, most of the ideas didn't come from me. I was just like sitting there receiving ideas from people who didn't really design games, never designed games, who never really worked on a game before, and I was just like absorbing them and putting them in the game. I didn't convert Clockwork Rumble to Mind Death Robots, other people did. So just a summary of our talk so far. Basically, we had a game called Clockwork Rumble, which looked like this. Some random dudes at GDC, I don't remember them, said like, make them huge, make big robots, don't use the small robots. So my girlfriend said, well, what about if you add small people to the game, like they walk around and they do stuff. So we converted our game to Caribbean Death Robots. And then the composer I worked with said like, what about Mayas? And we were like, okay, Mayan Death Robots. So then we published our game to Steam. We made a lot of money. And then we bought an $80 million mansion in Beverly Hills. Okay, maybe that didn't really happen yet. But it might happen at some point. So this is just like a few examples of how listening to people can really change the course of your game. But I'm going to give more examples. So this is about the real storyline behind the game. So there is a story in our game. Basically, it's about alien robots who land on Earth 1,500 years ago to film a television reality show. So it's kind of a celebrity deathmatch. These robots, they choose a remote planet where nothing really interesting is happening. They land there, they blast each other up, it's filmed, and everyone watches at the home planet and they enjoy it. And then at some point, they leave because the show is over or the money runs out. They clean up their act. And when we study the Mayan history, and we study the few books that are remaining, we misinterpret like the Mayans talking about gods, but they're really talking about the robots who were actually there. So it's basically the ancient astronaut story that a lot of people know about. So this is the intro for the game. You have a few robots in a sleazy apartment, kind of watching a television, drinking some oil cans of oil beer in their like really ugly home planet, just like some escapism for the alien robots. A few, like let's say 1 or 2 months after the GDC story, I was showing the game to random friends, right? I usually do this. Every few weeks I invite a friend who never played the game before and just put him in front of the computer and say like, play. I'm going to write down what you find of like annoying or what doesn't work. So I was showing the game to him and he was really enthusiastic about the game. I mean, he liked it. At that point we were very confident as well that the game was something special. And we showed it to him and he was like, after 2 hours, all right, I had a lot of fun, but I'm not sure if there's a lot of replay value here. Because every match is pretty much the same. You pick a robot, you play on a map. The map doesn't matter that much because you rebuild everything all the time. So where's the replay value? And I was like, okay, yeah, I see that. I mean, it's quite a, it's kind of a good point there. So we started talking about it and told him about the story, like the Mayan ancient astronaut story. And he said, okay, so this game's a television show. I didn't know that. And I was, okay, yeah, it is a television show. And then he said, but don't television shows usually have seasons, like they're split up in seasons? And I said, yeah. So where are you going here? And he said, okay, so if they have seasons, why don't you like convert the seasons into tournaments? Like make a whole season one tournament where you play and you upgrade your robot. And we started thinking about this and it made perfect sense. I mean, our robots are the same at the start of the match, but there's also a tournament version in the game now, which we implemented. A tournament mode where every second match you upgrade your robot with a random upgrade. So these upgrades completely change the game. For example, you have an upgrade where you jump, and every time you land, you do a lot of damage. So you're kind of encouraged to jump around and damage people by jumping. Or you have an upgrade where you can smash through all the blocks in the game and that kind of stuff. So we added something that extends the game from a 10-minute experience to like a 1-hour experience where you play a bunch of matches, play a best out of 5, and we upgrade your robot continually, making the game a little more interesting. So after that, Dave, who's another friend of mine, I talked to him as well, showed him the game for the first time. We played the tournament mode, he liked it, and he said to me, well, so does this game have any replay value? And I was like, yeah, we have a tournament mode. Look, you just played it. We added it for replay value. And he said, well, that doesn't work for me. And you know why it doesn't work? Dave is a hardcore RPG player. He's like the kind of guy who plays the game for like 80 hours towards one specific goal, finishing the game. He works hard. He likes the grind. And he needs long-term objectives. Not even an hour. He needs like to work towards something for hours and hours. So we started thinking again and brainstorming, and we added the Mayan calendar, which is again a perfect fit with the team. Basically, the idea is that instead of like just playing random matches, playing tournaments, you have a storyline. You walk through Mayan history as you decipher the Mayan calendar, and the more you play, the more advanced features you unlock. So you have basically every few matches you unlock a new feature. There's something to work towards. There are specific objectives like destroy these many things, and it's something that like it serves multiple purposes. For starters, it also allows us to keep the more advanced and more complex gameplay features locked for until you're quite experienced and you're ready to receive them. But it also gives people an objective, and that's important. I mean, some people really need this, something to work towards to keep coming back to the game. So when this all comes together, this is Mayan Death Robots in April 2014, and this is Mayan Death Robots today. It's a game you can play over there. You see, it's still pretty much the same level. Not much has changed. We put some stuff around. We just been tweaking and improving the interface and been like polishing everything for months and months and months. So in hindsight, like all the ideas I got from other people, they were not that difficult. I mean, they were easy to come up with ourselves. But the thing is, we didn't come up with them ourselves. Why? Because if you're a small indie team, you tend to get stuck in like a train of thought, where you have like an idea about how the game should look. You kind of stick with it. You keep going in the same direction, and it's hard to like expand to other directions because you don't have too many people to bounce your ideas off. And this is a very dangerous thing. I mean, in bigger studios, you have a lot of people, they give their inputs, but if you're on your own, it's really easy to get stuck there. So basically, the takeaway message from this talk would be, listen to people. Don't blindly follow their advice. They're like, you put your game out there, you go everywhere, you show it to everyone, there's going to be a lot of shitty advice. Like most people are really shit at giving advice. But in between all the shitty advice, there are going to be some gems. And you have to listen to the people to uncover these gems and to really do something useful with it. So don't blindly follow their advice, but always listen. And very important, strangers are also people. Friends, if your friends, they kind of think the same way that you do because they're your friends. So if you talk to complete strangers who don't even play games, they often have like these really refreshing insights that your friends wouldn't have because they're your friends. So it's something important to be able to listen, and it's quite difficult listening to strangers. For some reason, like you can take some hardship from your friends, but it's hard to like have a random stranger walk up to you, play your game, and like say like this is shit, and then walk away. That really hurts. But it's important. You should be open to advice from strangers. And also, you don't really need a community or fan base to do this. I mean, we're a small studio. We don't really have a community. There's plenty of occasions right now where you can meet people, you can show your game, you can go to conferences like Casual Connect, obviously, or GDC. You can go to game jams, Global Game Jam, they're everywhere. You can go to local meetups, like most big cities have a local indie meetup where you can just come with a laptop, put it there, have random people play your game. You can go to parties. I mean, there's plenty of situations where you can show your game nowadays, and you should. I mean, we've been going to conferences, to conventions, local conventions with our game since the start. And we've like shown the game to so many people, and it really made the game so much better. So that's my talk. I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope you were inspired a little bit to get out there with your game and show it to everyone. My game is called My Undead Robots. You can sign up for the beta at our website. It's coming to Steam and consoles in the summer of this year. If you sign up right now, you just get a mail with a download link of the latest version of the game. So you should do it. Or you should come play the game at the Indie Showcase after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the talk. Do you have any questions? No? Okay, I have a small question. So at the conferences, at the expos, you've got a lot of different advices and opinions from people. How do you understand, how do you feel which are gems and which are crap?
I think that's probably what I'm good at as a game designer. Just listening to people and immediately saying, okay, this makes no sense whatsoever. This is something useful. So all the things that I think might be useful, I write down. And at home, I kind of go over them and discuss it with the other guy. Take some time to study them and then really filter out everything.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah.
Hi. So you stressed in your talk that you talk to a lot of people who are not game industry professionals. What would you say is the main difference in their feedback, and what's the main advantage of their feedback as opposed to industry professionals?
Well, so game industry professionals are kind of trained to look behind the scenes of a game, right? They look at the mechanics and at all these different cogs that are turning behind the scenes of the game, and that's a very useful way to approach it. But strangers, like people who are not in the game industry, they have an intuitive way to feel the game. And it's also very valuable because, I mean, the game I showed you at first, Clockwork Rumble, has pretty much the same gameplay as it does today. And an industry professional will feel this and will say okay, so this has potential, you just need to work on the team. But if a stranger plays it, he says this is not fun. He doesn't know why. But that's very valuable because it's intuitive, and it's something. It's how most gamers also work. I mean, industry professionals are still different from gamers. They also intuitively assess a game and decide if it's good or not. They don't know why, but it might also they can say this is not fun, while it's actually fun, but the team sucks. And that's also something. So you need to have the whole package. And industry professionals tend to focus on their field, and if their field is good, they're going to assess the game as good. While non-professionals will assess the game as a whole, and will give a more objective, whole world perspective of the game.
Any more question? No? Okay, thank you so much for the great